2020. It sure did in fact happen. There are a few words that can describe this year, apart from terrible, awful, apocalyptic, hell, pain, draining, horrifying, and a lot of less desirable words that I won't mention out loud. Yeah. And also, I played the video games. This year was, at least for me, a fantastic one on the gaming side of things, excluding Nintendo, which kinda sucked. I don't really buy many games the year they come out, so instead I just wait for a sale a few years later and buy them digitally. That is the reason why, and I can't be more clear about this. This video is about games I played this year, not just that came out. This video was originally going to be a ranking of every single game I played this year, but it didn't take long before I realized I was gonna play more than I was expecting, and that I was forcing myself to play a minimal amount of games to keep my vid shorter. And here we are with my final video of this shit year, where I'll be ranking the top 10 games I played in 2020. There's only one rule, and that is that I'm only counting games that I played before making my previous video, since this started development only a few days after it was published. Now, let's do this. I enjoy Persona 5 quite a bit, and throughout this channel's lifespan, I will hammer that fact into people's heads. So my mate Toge, at Toge Returns on Twitter, go give him a follow, had on multiple occasions stated that his favorite game in the Persona series is Persona 4. So I tried it out, and is it any good? If it were a bad game, I wouldn't be sitting here discussing it with you now, would I? It was better than 5? Not really. Anyways, Persona 4 follows Yu Narukami, who moves to the normally quiet town of Inaba right around when a strange series of murders occur there. He immediately gets a hefty dose of new friends, and one day discovers that he has the power to enter through TV screens into a world where your true self is revealed, and the only way to truly defeat them is to accept that they're a part of you. This game has a lot of charm to it. I really enjoyed what I got to see of the characters in the small town setting. I also love murder mysteries, more on that in the later entry, so everything was set to work perfectly for me, right? Right? Please be right. Look, I'm sorry, man, but the game just wasn't nearly as good as 5 in my opinion. While the themes were all a nice breath of fresh air, the game was a bit too RPG tropey. Starting battles felt stiff and awkward compared to 5's great ambush system, and the game just didn't look too great. Probably really good for PS2 standards, but nowadays it's really outclassed. But oh my god, the music! This next entry is rather sus, am I right? I bet you could have called it without even checking admin, am I right? I literally committed manslaughter and electrical, guys, isn't that funny? I am in immeasurable pain. This charming little indie game was one of, if not the biggest game this year for millions upon millions of people. For me, it was really hit or miss, but the hits got really fun most of the time. In Among Us, you and 9 other people are set to do tasks in different extraordinary locations, ranging from spaceships, to sky bases, to research facilities on foreign planets, to an airship soon. Huh. Neat. And need I even explain the catch? There are 2 different ways to play this game, although one of the methods is clearly superior. Online with rando idiots isn't why people like this game. If you want to play this game the best way it can be played, then you need to play it with selected people through gatherings or Discord calls. And despite how I do like this game quite a lot under the correct circumstances, This game is just so repetitive. And the word sus has been forever burnt into my mind as a sign of obnoxious garbage slang. Despite its flaws, though, I'd still recommend it as long as you can directly talk to the other players. If not, do a couple of rounds with randos and call it a day if it's not your type of game.
Oh shit, it's the police.
I've had the Escapists 2 under my radar for a while now, but I swear, every time it goes on sale, there's something else that I feel like buying more. That eventually changed when I bought this alongside another game right before my family went on a camping trip. Unlike the other game though, this game only cost me $5 and, get this, it's actually good. In The Escapist 2, your mission is simple. Get out of the slammer! How? That's up for you to decide. The game gives you around 3 different ways to escape per prison, but if you're feeling exotic, then you can just say, nah, screw you game, and find another way to escape. You need to know how to spend your time efficiently and not get caught doing bad stuff if you want to get a good rating. For example, your neighboring cell has some pretty good loot. Should you perhaps go steal it while the guards don't see you? That's up for you to decide, or maybe you just want to sit back and read a book so you can craft more items. There's a lot of options, so go wild. Sometimes you might even go overboard and acquire more items than you need. Where should you hide these items? Maybe you'll use secret compartments or flush them down the toilet? Just decisions like that add a ton of tension and choice to the experience. Only reason it's so low on the list is because I simply haven't played enough yet. Plus, it's exactly what it seems. A solid prison escape game. I don't have much to add to that. It's just really good and not that much more. Give it a go if you're into time management and strategy making. I love myself a good twist on an RPG. Mostly because basic AF RPGs like the original Final Fantasies and Dragon Quests are absolutely abysmal. Lucky for me, the Mario and Luigi series exists. Before this year, I had only played Superstar Saga, which I never got into myself. Then this year, I played Dream Team, and it was just so damn close to capturing me. In Mario and Luigi Dream Team, you play as Don't Test Me on a trip to the mysterious island P-Elo Island, where they have to stop Bowser and his newest ally, Antasma, from acquiring the Dreamstone to grant any and all wishes they so please. But Luigi's a dumbass and falls asleep like an idiot. However, that's actually a good thing, since it grants Mario access to the world inside Luigi's dreams, where the Green Plumber can possess the environment, split into clones of himself, and go big. Will the Dream Team Bros be able to stop Bowser and Fantasma before it's too late? Of course not, I heard the final boss is an absolute bitch. From what I've played of this game, it was a charming adventure with a perfectly stupid plot and an expansive new location to explore. The reason I quit was because the combat in this game, while really fun, can get really frustrating. Especially some of the bosses are really fun, but then at the same time, them spamming this same nearly unavoidable attacks over and over again is not the fun part, it just feels annoying. Overworld encounters weren't a desire of mine either, since they feel so repetitive, but in order to beat the bosses casually, I sorta have to for the EXP. If you're into a good twist on an RPG, I'd say start from the first MNL game and find out if it's your thing. I'm personally not insanely into the series, but I won't deny that I had a real good time with what I played, and I definitely see why people enjoy the series so much.
Bruh! 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 Bruh!
So post 2020 me had, as you could probably tell from this being on the list, never played Team Fortress 2 before. Although I had played Overwatch and Paladins before, I never owned a computer for myself until the end of 2019, when I bought a pretty decent Lenovo IdeaPad laptop. Of course, it's barely even powerful enough to play big Steam games, but it can actually run TF2 pretty well. I waited until a few months had passed before I tried it out for the first time, and here we are today. First of all, this game is such dumb fun. While the aforementioned Overwatch and Paladins were both a lot of fun as well, their emphasis on working together as a team felt a bit restricted, and God forbid you got a bad teammate. In TF2, however, you can mostly focus on your own things, which makes it a lot more laid back. For me, I'm main medic. Him and engineer are both a good middle line between teamwork and individuality, plus I'm a sucker for helping people I don't even know. The only flaw I'd give this game on the spot is the god-awful bot problem. You'll know what I'm talking about if you've played it. Play this game if you have a better computer than me. The lag shows on a few occasions. Wow, look at Mr. Popular over here. A lot of people I know love this game to bits, and what do I think? Well, you see, um, it's not really my type of game? That's not to say I disliked the game, of course. When I had fun and felt properly relaxed, it actually felt rather therapeutic for me. When I wasn't just relaxing, though, I had to pay off my debts, remake my tools, listen to the exact same music for hours until I got 3 more goddamn villagers, wait for things to happen, get treated like a toddler while paying off debts. Yeah, I don't like that. Onto the positives, though, the interactions between villagers was absolutely inspired. My starting villagers were Rene and Rudy, and I love them both so much. They had a conversation about exercise once while I just stood there and listened to their words of intellect. There's also the satisfaction of collecting a new bug or inviting a new islander that I rarely get from other games. Also, this game looks so goddamn good! The E3 trailer we got last year somehow managed to make me tear up. The visuals are that good. While I don't actually own the game for myself, I just lent it from a friend when I tried it. I might honestly pick it up for myself one day if I somehow get into the casual games like this. For now, though, probably not.
The zombies are coming.
You know, sometimes you just gotta admit to yourself that a game you grew up with is greatly inferior to its fancy new sequel, or maybe its predecessor if you never got a chance to play that. Now that that's out of the way, the original Plants vs. Zombies is the better one. Daring today, are we? For some reason, I only played Plants vs. Zombies 2 when I was younger. Most likely because it was themed around time travel and had a lot more unique twists on the basic level formula. Unfortunately, it was heavily associated with airy aspects, so they just said, let's make the late game brutally difficult so that we can trick children into buying the premium plants that have the same use as any other regular plants. Unsurprisingly, that was dumb. But now that I'm older and not an idiot, I decided to try out the original and was pleasantly surprised. The entire tower defense is one of my favorites, so to see it get pulled off this well is great. In Plants vs. Zombies, there's a zombie on your lawn, and the only way to defeat it is to use what else?
A fax machine.
What I enjoyed the most about this game over the sequel was its length and consistent fun over your first playthrough. You can beat the game in just a few hours, in fact, and since a new plan is introduced in nearly every level, you get to change out your loadout pretty frequently. The sequel had long spaces in between new plants, and while it had more level variety with unique completion requirements, sometimes they could feel sorta tedious. Plus, some plants were just objectively better than others. In the original, yeah, some of the balancing is bad, but it's at least tolerable. So yeah, I found this game a lot better than the sequel. Big shocker. Too bad I played the free mobile version, which was published by everyone fucking hates you. Anyways, yeah, play this game, it's good.
Come dance, Nevic hospitality, or come out my house, and I'll break your fucking legs, you little prick!
Out of all the games I played this year, this was the only one that I was both expecting to be phenomenal, and that completely delivered. The game I'm referring to is, of course, Minecraft Dungeon. I'm not even gonna finish this sentence, it's Ni no Kuni 2. For the longest time now, I've wanted a Pokemon game where the combat plays in 3D like an action RPG, and back in 2011, we basically got that with the critically acclaimed Ni no Kuni. I never played Ni no Kuni 1. That fact raised some skepticism for me when I found out that its sequel, Ni no Kuni 2, was on sale. I did some research and found out that you didn't actually have to play the original game in order to understand the second game's plot. To say it lightly, I was not disappointed, even though I'm only on, chapter 5 out of 9? Let's start with the combat. The combat in this game is so much fun. Despite being an RPG, it never felt like I was doing tedious combat. This is one of few games where I can say that I actively seeked out enemy encounters for the heck of it, not just for experience. I really like the ways the story and characters have been so far. The two main characters are a half-cat king and the literal Prime Minister of Japan who went full-on isekai. The story is set hundreds of years after the original game and tackles the theme of anyone has the power to make a difference, which is a theme I love to see. The entire world is just oozing with creativity and charm. I love the higgledy so much that it hurts on both a gameplay and character standpoint, and I'm not even mentioning the skirmishes and kingdom management elephants in the room. My biggest issue with this game, however, is the pacing in the middle of the game. Like, I went from saving a gambling-obsessed kingdom inhabited by dogs from a sellout pug and his big Shiza, to doing fetch quests for some old hag so that I could read some books. Wow, how interesting. Regardless, this is a must-play if you're into JRPGs in a fantasy setting. Can't wait to play it more once I clear out my recent backlog problem. Like, oh my god, my backlog is alarmingly huge. Help me. Now, before we move on to the last two games on this list, here's a rundown of the games that either just didn't make the list, or that just weren't insanely good. Wrecked High Octane Stunts. A decent car game mixed with some trick elements from skating games. Kinda fun with friends, but nothing to write home about. SteamWorld Dig. A pretty good time that felt like it just stopped after the first/final boss. If the intent of this game was to make it short and sweet, then hats off to the developers, but from what I've heard, Spelunky is probably a better pick. Scribblenauts, Unlimited, and Unmasked. Unfortunately, I think I've watched way too many playthroughs of Unlimited for it to be interesting anymore. As for Unmasked, I really disliked the concept, so I stopped playing pretty early on. Pokemon Platinum and Pokemon Black 2. Platinum was a tad bit too basic for me, and Black 2 only barely lost my interest before the fight against Elisa. The Pokemon Sword and Shield DLC, by some considered the peak of the entire franchise, but for me, not so much. Without going into detail, the Isle of Armor is pathetically easy in post-game, but grinding up Cub Fruit from level 10 to around level 70 is just fucking stupid. Crown Tundra I haven't played enough of yet, but from what I have, it's fine probably. Your Turn to Die, a game which I can only assume is inspired by Danganronpa, except instead of just being a killing game, it's its own thing about betrayal, sacrifice, and the topic of majority votes. So, certain precedent could benefit from playing it. I've only finished chapter 1 though, and the game's still on its second chapter as far as I know, so I don't have much to say about it. Now that we have all of those decent to good games out of the way, let's talk about the ones I disliked. Mainly as an excuse to briefly rant about the worst game I have played all year, which some of you may already know about. Let's do this. Number 3, Helltaker. Not bad, far from lazy. Quite possibly the most painfully mediocre game I've ever played. For a tough as nails puzzle game, it sure is easy to just skip all the levels excluding the final boss. And even then, you can just instantly reach the ending via the main menu, so this already short game ends up feeling completely worthless unless you want to unlock a single secret character. Number 2, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Eyes of Heaven. Talk about a disappointment. For a game based off of my favorite anime of all time, it plays like absolute crap, takes ages to learn the basics, and somehow manages to have one of the worst localization names I've ever heard in JoJo media, and there's not even local multiplayer. And then we have number 1. The inspiration to make a countdown within a countdown. The one and only, drumroll please, Minecraft Dungeons. Possibly my least favorite video game of all time. It's like if they threw Minecraft and Diablo into a meat skewer, but then once they were skewed out into one product, Mojang rushed to the sink and squeezed out the creative juices that made those games fun. Minecraft Dungeons has no reason to be Minecraft based other than publicity. Its loot system is trash, the dungeons themselves are uninteresting and repetitive, the game has like 2 good tracks, and the fucking redstone dungeon can take its stupid fucking redstone golems and redstone monstrosities and shove them right up its ass! Anyways, back to the main attraction of this video now that I've gotten that off my chest. Starting with number 2 on our list is a game that helped me get through one of the lowest periods I've ever experienced in my life. Despite being relatively unknown, this game greatly exceeded my expectations to become one of my favorite games of all time. And that game is Slime Rancher. There are a few ways that I can put into words how good this game is. So here's an example of what has gone down as one of my favorite moments in gaming ever. Entering the ancient ruins. So I had just collected one of each plort required to access the next area in the game, which wasn't very hard. Up until that point, I had enjoyed the game tons, but it still wasn't anything special. Ever since I reached the second area, the gates to the ancient ruins had teased me with its music. A calming melody meant as an appetizer for what was to come. Anyways, I opened up the gate to the ruins and freezed. The view of the beautiful ruins had caught me off guard. So much wonder filled me at once, and it was hard to comprehend. Then the music kicked in. The calming melody from before had suddenly become an orchestrated work of art, complementing what I was seeing flawlessly. It was magic. That was when I realized that Slime Rancher was so much more than its face value. It's not just some fun indie game like we've seen countless times already. It's a true masterpiece. I love this game so much, and I beg that one day it will receive the recognition it oh so much deserves. So then what the fuck is number 1? Yeah, I went there. So you know what? I'll admit it. On an emotional level, Slime Rancher is my game of the year if we exclude release dates. But if I'm going by the games that I enjoyed the most, then Danganronpa, Trigger Happy Havoc, and Goodbye Despair win by a damn landslide. If you didn't already know, I absolutely adore the murder mystery genre. So long as it's not a mediocre Adam Sandler movie, it's safe to say that it's my favorite genre in fiction. It either makes me use my head and be creative, or lets me experience a professional solve it brilliantly. Back to Danganronpa, a group of 15 to 16 gifted high school students are trapped in an unfamiliar environment and forced to murder each other in order to escape. The catch is that once someone is killed, a trial will be held to decide who the killer is. If they're not caught, then they get to leave while their fellow students are executed, and vice versa. On top of all that, the killing game is hosted by an animatronic bipolar teddy bear husbando. The executions are both insanely brutal and specifically designed to mock its victims, and without spoiling anything, the plot is complete and utter madness. Both of these games have such amazing casts, and to see many of them doubting each other and go through many arcs is awesome. And to think that all this praise is coming from someone who had the entire series spoiled, at least with character deaths, you know. That still pains me to this day, to be honest. I can't go into further details without spoiling a lot of what makes these games special. All I can say is that you go give these games a try, they're simply phenomenal and the peak of the visual novel genre. At least in my opinion. As mentioned at the start of the video, 2020 has been a tough year that tested all of us in some way. I am eternally grateful for living in a country with a proper hold on the current pandemic, and it scares me that at least 80% of the world's population isn't as fortunate. But in a strange way, this year opened up my eyes for some truly amazing IPs, as well as made me realize what content I wanted to make on this channel. I'm not planning on stopping anytime soon, so if y'all could remain as patient as you have been so far, then I'd greatly appreciate it. Here's to an, at the very least, improving 2021, both in general and for the art form of video games. Don't quote me on that though. Anyways, this has been Miitopian, and remember to keep your vibe checked. Peace!